So about a year ago, as I was doom scrolling through one of my favorite brain-rotting apps, I found myself looking at a bunch of videos of people taking photos and then printing them on this miniature printer on location. Now, this being the cutest printer I'd ever seen, I was obviously intrigued. And so a few months later, I bought one. So then, this is the Canon Selphy CP1500. Yeah, that name doesn't really roll off the tongue, does it? But it's a good printer nonetheless, and now I've had it for about 8 months. I think it's about time that I tell you what I think of it. So, as usual, we're going to start with the bad and the ugly sides of this thing, and then work our way up to the positives. But before we get into the good and the bad, let's have a little crash course on how this printer works, because it's not like your regular home printer. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be some sort of printer expert and lecture you on different printing processes, but it is worth noting that the Canon Selphy is a dye sublimation printer. Unlike your most common office or home printers, it doesn't actually use ink. Instead, when you buy your papers, you also get a cartridge to go with. Now, if you were to open up one of these cartridges, you'd find this, a long roll of plastic film, or ribbon as I think it's referred to in the dye sublimation world. Each section of ribbon has a yellow, magenta, blue, and clear part. And the way the printer works is it will heat up each part, transferring the dye onto the paper, layer by layer, until you have your final image. Now, with that basic knowledge out of the way, let's get into the printer review. So then, what are my gripes with this printer? Well, for starters, the dye sublimation process is neat, but I can't help but feel limited by it sometimes. You see, one of the things I miss with this printer is that usually when I print an image, my favorite step of the process is choosing the paper. I mean, there are dozens of manufacturers and hundreds of options out there. Do I want this image to be printed on a super matte paper to get this nice kind of washed out look? Or do I want to go for a pearlescent paper to get that nice texture? Or do I just want the image to really pop off the wall, and should I then print it on a very high gloss finish? That's a choice that you don't really have with this printer. Now, I know, this printer is not meant to compete with, proper photo printers or even a good home printer. So not being able to choose isn't that big of a deal. After all, the results are fine. But what happens if they stop selling these? What happens if they make a new Selphy model and just decide to discontinue the support for the older ones? Am I stuck without papers and cartridges? With inkjet printers, there are usually many options for aftermarket ink and, of course, different papers from different manufacturers. Whereas here, you're very stuck with Canon's offering, and that makes me a bit nervous. Now, speaking of nervous, one thing I was a bit nervous about when buying this printer was that I'd heard that there were a lot of lemons. Now, as I excitedly was opening my printer for the first time, I was also crossing my fingers, just hoping that I hadn't got a Selphy with the typical line issue. This is a super common issue that you'll find all around on forums and other reviews, and it's just one of these issues that Canon doesn't really seem to care to fix. Been here for multiple generations of these printers, and simply Canon just says, yeah, it's a cheap hobby printer, deal with it. Now, I personally think this is a super big bummer because the print quality is just fine otherwise. Now, if you buy one of these printers and you get the line issue, of course, you could return it and try to exchange it and get another one, but to be honest, it's hardly worth it. The issue is super common, and if you don't have a line in your images, congratulations, you are one of the lucky ones. Now, personally, I'm one of these people who are convinced that printers are made just to anger people, that printer manufacturers deliberately make their printers annoying so that you're sitting there, you've got that last minute document to print, and you're just trying everything, and it's updating and it doesn't print, and the ink's low and this is low and the paper's out. I mean, printers are damn frustrating. To be fair to this Selphy, it is very reliable, but I do have an issue, and it is with the app. Sometimes I go to share a photo with the app and send it to the printer, and it just doesn't. It just won't print. And the only way to fix it is either to restart the app, restart the printer, or restart your phone, or all three. While it is a small gripe and only happens occasionally, it is 2025. I can control my lights in my apartment with an app. I can start my car with an app. I can do everything with an app, but I still can't reliably send an image to a printer. Come on, Canon, do better. All right. That's enough of the negatives. Let's stop picking on this thing and let me show you some of the things that I really, really like about this printer. For starters, this printer makes it easier than ever to print. And since it's easier to print, it means that I've actually printed more. Sure, it can only print postcard size, and sure, the quality isn't maybe excellent, but that doesn't matter. What matters is I've been printing my memories, and my fridge is now full of all these wonderful photos that I get to wake up and look at every morning as I have my coffee, and it makes me happy. Now, what makes this even better and has made me print even more is that I'm a Fuji shooter, and for the last year I couldn't really be bothered editing every single photo I took, and so I started mucking about with film simulations. And this paired up really nicely with the Canon Selphy because I could take photos, transfer them easily via the Fuji app to my phone, and voila, I'd have a printed image within just a few minutes. And that agility and that ease of use truly made me print more. And that's probably my favorite thing about this printer, how easy it is to print. Now, one thing that's put me off printing in the past is how damn annoying printers are. I said it before in the video, but it really feels like manufacturers are just trying to annoy you. But this has been surprisingly reliable. Sure, there's a few hiccups with the app here and there, but 9 times out of 10, when I press print, I get an image. Now, the third thing I really enjoy about this printer is actually the print quality. I was a bit worried when I got it because it's really hard to convey print quality over videos, so when I was watching reviews and, searching through forums, it was just really hard to judge what the print quality was going to be like. But I can tell you, after printing way over 100 images, I'm very happy with it. Sure, it does get a bit muddy sometimes, but it does generate a pleasant image, and if you then take the cost into consideration, I'd like to say it's excellent for the price. Now, one of the massive perks of this printer is its small size. I mean, that was the whole reason why I was interested in it in the first place. Usually you say that the best camera is the camera you have with you. That has become true for printers now as well, since I got this. I mean, I've taken this to parties. I brought this to Australia with me when I went to visit family. It's great, and the fact that it's so small is what makes it so great. Now, there is one must-have accessory for the printer, and it is this. Yes, you can power this entirely off of battery, and to be honest, without it, it is not the same thing. Running around with an adapter and a power cord, it's clumsy, it's clunky, it takes up heaps of space in your bag. It really doesn't make it the same thing. Having the battery and just being able to turn it on and print wherever you are is super nice and super convenient. This specific battery I just got off of Amazon. It's a knockoff, cost me like 300 crowns. It is so worth it, and it makes this printer a whole lot more versatile. So then, we're nearing the end of my pros and cons list, but I've got one final thing to say, and that is that the best thing with this printer is how many smiles it brings. Dad and I were discussing this, and the conclusion we came to is that before, when every single photo was physical and had to be printed, physical photos became annoying. They just collected dust in boxes of photo albums and you never really looked at them. Whereas now, when everything is digital and you just endlessly scroll through your cloud of photos, it is quite nice to get a physical memory sometimes. And so my favorite thing is to just bring this printer to a party, go around, snap a few memories, a few funny moments, a few portraits, a few group photos, print them, and then hand them out at the end of the night. I mean, the smile on people's faces is priceless. And what you've done is you've created a memory. And that's the whole point of photography, to remember a moment. And this printer helps you kind of solidify that memory in a digital age. Alrighty everyone, that is my review of the Canon Selphy CP1500. To summarize my thoughts, personally, I really like this thing. It's convenient, easy to use, and it's super fun to use most of all. And that's why this quickly has become my favorite photography accessory over the past year. Now, is this the product for you? I don't know. All I can say is that if you want to get into printing, or maybe if you travel a lot, or if you really like having, that little postcard on your fridge, then yeah, this is an excellent buy. But if you're on the fence, or if you expect big things from this, just tame your expectations a little. Do with that information what you will. Let me know if you get one, or what you think of it, or what you thought of this video down in the comments below. I try to answer every single one. And until next time, see ya.